To factory. What does that mean? Well, I wish. If I thought it was that easy, I'd have broken a long time ago. Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Devin Allen, Commissioner Precinct 2. Here. Jerry Efficacy, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by our own Frank Litke from Sheriff's. Appreciate you coming out today.
Sir.
Thank you.
Father, we thank you for this time you've given us, and we thank you, Lord, for your blessings to us on our country. We pray, Lord, for those in our country that are in leadership, the President and Senate and House, those, Lord, that make decisions. But right here today, Lord, we're asking for wisdom and for help for Judge Whitley as well as the commissioners. We pray that you'd help them in the decisions they make. Father, we pray for the sheriff and his staff as well as the officers. Lord, we pray that you'd keep them safe and help them. Lord, families in our county have been affected because of the cold weather, and we pray, Lord, they're still digging through some of those things, Lord, and I pray that you'd help them as well as the ongoing COVID crisis. So, Lord, we're asking you for a lot of stuff today, Lord, but we also know that you're a big God, and you can take care of these things. And so we pray for your wisdom, your guidance, and your help. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thanks. Great to see you.
Thank you, Frank. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Honor Members of the Court. We have a few agenda announcements today.
Several?
A few.
Few?
And
Is that somewhere between 3 and 5, and several's over 5, and under is numerous?
some.
Some.
So, under Facilities Management, item number 8E1, there's revised court communication. There was an error code on the funding source as it relates to that particular one. Members of the Court, as we have always done over the last couple of court sessions, we're going to take various things out of order. When we get to the administrator section, we'll go ahead and ask Mr. Tanaja to come up and make his presentation. Also, Your Honor, we do have audience participation forms. I think you have 4 of them.
We have some.
Yes, we do. We have several. And 3 of them deal with the COVID-related issue, and 1 is a non-COVID related issue. So if you want to take that one that's non-COVID in the normal order as it appears on the agenda, that would be fine. Thank you, Your Honor.
Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of February the 23rd.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. We have a couple of proclamations, resolutions today. The first one is, it's very close to home. Ron was a good friend. He was I think, a great public servant, someone who was willing to not just sit back and observe and criticize, but to get involved and try to make things better. And so we lost, and we closed court last week in his honor. but I've got a resolution here that I want to read into the record. Whereas after graduating from Maysville High School in 1971, Ron Wright, a sixth-generation resident of Tarrant County, moved to Arlington to attend the University of Texas at Arlington. And whereas from 2000 to 2008, Ron Wright served on the Arlington City Council, serving as Mayor Pro Tem the last 4 years. And whereas Ron Wright was District Director for U.S. Congressman Joe Barton beginning in 2000, becoming the Congressman's Chief of Staff in 2009. And whereas in May 2011, Ron accepted the appointment of Tax Assessor Collector by the Tarrant County Commissioners Court, replacing Betsy Price, and was elected to a full term in 2012, followed by a 4-year term in 2016. And whereas Congressman Ron Wright was elected in 2018 to represent the 6th Congressional District of Texas in the United States House of Representatives, and whereas in addition to his political career, Congressman Wright served on many boards and commissions for which he received numerous awards, including Volunteer of the Year, Man of the Year for the Community Service, and Hero of the Homeless Award. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby honor the service of United States Congressman Ron Wright and recognize his many contributions to the citizens of the county and of the United States and of this state. Be it further resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim the 2nd day of March 2021 as Congressman Ron Wright Day in Tarrant County, and encourage all citizens to take note of his passion for public service, which has meant so much to so many through all the years. In witness whereof we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 2nd day of March 2021, and I'll move approval.
Please show a second from every member of this court.
Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion does pass unanimously. Susan, please, if you will, join me at the mic. We thought a lot of Ron. He came in and he was, active from the beginning, and he never stopped being active. And I know how proud he was to represent the 6th District. I know he worked in the 6th District for Joe for a number of years, but I know how much it meant to him to have an opportunity to sit in that seat. And so we feel very good about this, and then also got some copies so that you might be able to give those to the other children and do that. So again, thank you. Go ahead. Let's turn around here and get a picture.
Oh, okay.
And she has to take 3 pictures. Say anything you'd like to say.
Let me very quickly, not a good speech for me, but he loved you guys. He loved Tarrant County. This was always family, and this means a lot to us. Thank you all so much for all the support you gave him the whole time he was here, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
May I speak to the court just for a moment?
You bet.
I think it's fantastic that you chose today, March 2nd, to honor Ron Wright, because this is Texas Independence Day, and I think nothing better could have been done on this day than honoring Congressman Wright. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, and I will certainly second that. I know that while Joe was in Congress, he always had a big celebration on Texas Independence Day. And my guess is that a lot of that was probably the push from also Ron Wright, who was always very focused on history. And one of the stories that I kind of recounted is, he would have his little newsletter, and he was constantly coming up with questions to ask us that would stump us. And, it's not just something you could go to Google and find the answer to. He was pretty good about getting something and asking a question that was deep enough that you weren't just going to find it on the first, rattle out of the box. So he was quite the historian, and being a sixth-generation Texan, you can understand that. Next is the Commissioner Brooks. I believe you have a resolution.
I have a congratulatory resolution honoring Catherine Young Jr. upon the occasion of her retirement after 30 years with Precinct 1, 31 years with Tarrant County. It's already been presented. I move for its ratification.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. The next proclamation is one for the Junior Livestock Show, and would the folks come on down that are here for this? I'm going to read the proclamation into the record, and I'm doing that on behalf of Commissioner Johnson because this is his baby. And he's about grown this child from it being his baby to it being a full-fledged adult. But he has so much passion for this. Has everybody paid their money?
I don't know. Ask GK.
Devin says hers is in the mail.
They have mine.
What about GK?
Commissioner, you already cashed the check.
Just checking, GK.
Whereas Tarrant County Junior Livestock Show was established in 1950 as an opportunity for youth to exhibit and compete with their livestock and home economic projects in a Tarrant County show, and whereas over 100 volunteers continue the tradition with committed service in conducting the show through the Tarrant County Junior Livestock Association Show Board, comprised of members representing the Fort Worth Farm and Ranch Club, Tarrant County 4-H clubs, and Tarrant County FFA chapters. And whereas 4-H clubs and FFA chapters provide youth with educational and extracurricular opportunities to develop life skills, leadership, community service, and an appreciation of agriculture. And whereas during the 70-year history of the Tarrant County Junior Livestock Show, thousands of youth have participated and benefited from this worthwhile educational and achievement activity. And whereas 800 exhibitors have submitted 1,800 project entries for this year's show, which signifies the completion of their projects. And whereas through the work of the Tarrant County Junior Livestock Show Association, Tarrant County FFA chapters, and the Tarrant County 4-H program, community sponsors and donors contributed more than $400,000 toward the youth of Tarrant County through their support of this show and sale in 2020. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby proclaim March 3rd through 5th, 2021 as Tarrant County Junior Livestock Show Days, and encourage all residents to participate in the activities at Will Rogers Complex in support of our county's youth. In witness whereof we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this second day of March 2021, and I'll move approval. No, excuse me.
I move approval.
Second.
Just a little slip up there, no problem, though.
I'll forgive you this time.
Please vote. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, how are we going to get this picture? Y'all get in the middle and I'm going to get over the edge. Come on, get in here in the middle. No, that's not. I'm not. Good try.
That's the ugly head, huh?
That's right. You tell me what y'all like to make, Mike. Thank you.
Well, I've been working on this show and association for 23 years now. JD's got a few years on me, but this is one of the most important things that we get to do every year. And anything that we can do to promote and encourage the youth, give them encouragement to continue on with their activities, whether it's in the agricultural field or otherwise, we count it a blessing and a true honor, and we do thank y'all for recognizing us. Thank you so much.
Here's the person right there. Anybody, go ahead, come on forward.
I want to thank each and every one of y'all for coming out here today.
Thank you. JD, what would you like to, comments you'd like to make?
Well, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that the sale begins at 1 o'clock Saturday in the swine barn. And the first time in 40 years or more, I won't be attending this year. My son is going to be there, and he's going to take care of things, and he and I will burn the phone up while the sale's going on. But anybody that can, come out to the show. The kids have a good time. It's an excellent opportunity for them, and I'm just honored to be a part of it.
Thank you. And I cannot say enough about his passion and his love for this show and for everything that the kids do and everything that y'all do to support the kids. Because it just doesn't happen. Y'all make sure everybody gets taken care of, and we cannot tell you how much we appreciate it. Anybody else want to make any comments? Thank you all very much. Employee recognition, I think we're getting closer. We talk about it every month, but we're just not quite there yet. So we're going to go ahead and run it. Good morning. Because of the COVID-19 virus, we have, and the restrictions that it's placed upon our meetings, I'm sorry to say that we're going to have to postpone our employee recognition. That is one of my favorite times of the month, and so I'm sorry that we're not going to be able to do that this month, but I promise you that when everything gets back to normal or whatever our new normal is, we'll begin those again, and we'll make up for those meetings and for those months that we've had to miss. Again, I want to thank you personally for what you do for Tarrant County, especially during this time when we've had to face the challenges of the COVID-19 virus. Our employees have always stood up for the test, and you've done exactly the same thing during this time frame. You're what makes Tarrant County such a great place to live, to work, and to raise our family. Again, thank you very much, and I look forward to getting back to our routine of being able to recognize our valued employees on that first Tuesday of every month. Thank you. There's our 5 here. So again, I guess the last time we did it was this year, or this month, last year. So while we may not be getting started back in April, we're getting closer. So we're going to have to sit down and figure out how we're going to do it, but we're going to get everybody. And so it's going to be some lengthy employee recognition as the months approach, but we're gonna get to everybody. And with that, I'll move that we receive and file the employee recognition.
Second.
A motion and a second. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Yeah, you told me that, and I just breezed right on by you and forgot you.
Yeah, I won't take it personal.
Good. Go right ahead.
Well, so yesterday kicked off Women's History Month. So just for all of my sister friends, sheroes, women that are making it happen, just want to recognize you all this month for all of your efforts. And then I wanted to express my thanks to a couple different community partners for our successful third pop-up COVID-19 vaccine sign-up event. We hosted it Thursday afternoon of this past week at Asia Times Square with the partnership of Matthew Lowe, the City of Grand Prairie, JPS board member DT Wynn, along with a host of volunteers, some as far as Collin County, came to help us sign folks up. So we had 180 new COVID-19 registrants for Tarrant County, and we also signed up folks for Dallas County, so 41. And then we have our fourth pop-up COVID-19 sign-up event this Saturday, March 6th, from 1 to 3 p.m. at El Rancho Supermercado in Arlington. And that's in partnership with Arlington Public Library, El Rancho, and we, as we customarily do, we'll have volunteers there to help with sign up in Spanish, Vietnamese, and English. So just want to make it really clear that this is just to sign up to signify your interest to receive the vaccine. We will not be distributing vaccines at this event, but this is a great opportunity to get your name on the list and get in queue. And as we see hopefully the increase in vaccine availability, that will help to get more folks vaccinated as soon as possible. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we can now go to the briefing item and ask Mr. Tanasia to come forward and present for the current emerging health issues.
Good morning, Your Honor, and members of the court. We'll have a quick update on a couple of things. First one, change. We've got an emerging health issue that we're keeping an eye on. There is a current Ebola outbreak in two countries, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Guinea. There are only a handful of cases in either country, about 8 in one and 9 in the other one. And good news is that the Ebola vaccinations have already started in DRC. I don't think they're yet in Guinea. And as you may recall, that was one of the first vaccines that was approved back when we had the Ebola outbreak here in 2014. It's a 100% effective vaccine, so hopefully we can put a stop to this. And there's a international coordination agency that now has a stockpile of this vaccine. So they're mobilizing that. Hopefully it will stop there. In 2016 there was an outbreak, in 2018 there was an outbreak, and all of those were able to be stopped with the help of the vaccine, so we're very, very hopeful. But CDC is taking travel restrictions very seriously. They're starting to implement that plan of the 6 funneling airports to take travelers from DRC and Guinea through those so they can go through that extended screening upon entry. I currently believe that DFW is not one of them. We typically are not one of those funneling airports. We checked with our CDC counterparts. We're not in the consideration. There's not a final list at this point. But typically, as you may recall, those are John F. Kennedy in New York. Then there's Newark Airport, Chicago, LA, Atlanta, and I forget the 6th one. But typically, we're not one of those. When they extend it out to 10 or 11, that's when usually DFW gets on there. So currently, I'm hopeful that we won't be seeing anything of Ebola come to us.
And we're not in that first 6 because none of our airlines have flights directly
to those countries.
into
That
either
is
one of
correct.
those countries.
Yes, sir. And so it's the same plan that we implemented in 2014. I think with COVID, a similar plan was implemented, and then it was extended to 11 airports, and then DFW was in one of those. So this is, again, just for situational awareness. I currently don't feel that there's any direct risk here. I just wanted you to be aware that situations overseas do emerge pretty rapidly that can, with a global economy, can travel pretty fast. So that's where we are with the Ebola outbreak. Back to COVID, the topic of the year, I guess. So we're certainly seeing declines develop in all our data. As you can see on the map on the right, a lot of green starting to pop up in different counties. There's still a couple counties out in the red, but Tarrant County's gotten a sort of in their coloring scheme, a light orange. So we're on a downward trend. 243,000 total cases and about 2,897 deaths. So things are improving from a trend standpoint. We're declining. I think we had like 400 some cases to report this morning and another 14 or so deaths. But again, the trend stays downward, and I'll show you some charts. In our hospitalizations, we're now below the 10% mark, which is great news. We have 448 people in Tarrant County hospitals with COVID-19. 122 of those are in the ICU. So it kind of stays the same where, above 20% end up seriously ill within the ICU and so forth. And there are 38 beds available. Trauma Service Area E has dipped to about 8.7%. That's 1,396 people in the hospital in this 19-county region. And the chart on the bottom, it's from DSHS website. It's showing a continuous decline and 169 ICU beds available. But with all this good news, I want to do caution. We've got great efforts going on vaccine. The cases are declining. People are feeling optimistic, which is great. I love that because we need the hope. But it is not a time to let our guard down. CDC has seen this all across the country. People are feeling a sigh of relief, and they're like, yep, let's get rid of all the restrictions. And they've put a cautionary note out that it may be too early. There are variants out there. We've talked about the UK strain and the South Africa strain, and I think I mentioned there was an LA strain. So all of those variants, CDC is seeing some plateauing of the declines at the national level. So they're urging all of us to be very cautious and not to let our guard down. So the things that we do, wearing our mask, washing our hands, staying away from others 6 feet or more, and avoiding large group gatherings, all of those things still matter, and they should be followed till we put this thing away for good. So that's kind of our message currently, that don't let your guard down. But overall, as you can see, trends are improving. We're loving this because we're finally finding some good relief from the outbreak. On the left-hand side is our case chart. The outbreak is declining. On the right-hand side is our death chart. There's still increases happening, but I think it's starting to slow down, because you can see, if you ignore the last three bars, because the data on the death charts is usually 3 to 4 weeks delayed, even on those other bars, you're starting to see a downward trend develop. Once data fills in, it may kind of level out, but we're hopeful that it's starting to coincide. We peaked in first week of January. Now we're in first week of March. I think we've had enough time to say that we're going to see a decline on the death rate as well on the death chart. So trends in other indicators. So the left one on the top is the 7-day average of positivity for testing. It's declining. It's still above the 10% threshold, but we're heading there. We had a little blip. I think that it was the weather-related week. There was not enough testing happening, so it looked like it was high, but I think overall the trend has resumed downwards. The problem with this is it's demand-driven, right? So right now our testing sites are not seeing a lot of demand for testing, and once you don't test, it's kind of hard to know what is going on in your community. It's a case-finding tool. So again, I encourage anybody who has any symptoms or even an inkling in their mind, they should come get a test. It's free at the testing sites, because we don't want to be without knowledge of what is happening in our community, and you don't want to be going to work or going to a social event not knowing that you have COVID. You could have a mild case, may feel like allergies, and you might be spreading it to others. So it works both ways. Get a free test. There are not huge lines there right now because testing demand is low. So certainly welcome to get a test. COVID-like illness on the right-hand side on the top, it's declining significantly. I think this is approaching probably a pandemic low. I think we're almost there. We're at 2 or 3%, and I think the pandemic low was 1%. So we are in a very good spot from a COVID-like illness. That's people seeking ER care with COVID-like illness. And then chart on the left on the bottom is just a representation of what's happening in our trauma service area. Obviously below the 15% threshold for almost 2 weeks now. And then the middle chart is our hospital beds for Tarrant County. They're declining. And on the right-hand side, very good news developing. The chart on the right, where our case rate is now, I believe, right at or just a little bit above the threshold of 100 per 100,000. So we're making good progress on every indicator. It's great news. Our doubling rate has gone to almost 80 days. Virus spread is slowed down to 0.52, so one person is technically infecting only a half. So, when you put all the numbers together, it's really slowing down. And it's kind of hard to explain some of these things sometimes. So again, the message remains the same. Wear a mask, stay 6 feet away from others, wash your hands, and then when your time comes, get vaccinated, because vaccinations have had a big impact, as we can see on our numbers. So here's a vaccine update, but I'll pause there if there's any questions on COVID outbreak related.
Yeah, Vinny, I do have a few questions. So because of the winter storm that we experienced 2 weeks ago, right, and people were more spread out and kind of sheltering in place, then are we confident that we've kind of seen the effects of that already play out in the numbers?
I believe so, because we resumed that downward trend on COVID-like illness and also on the testing numbers. I think we're past that. It was a sort of a short-term blip for that week, but overall, I don't think it would change the big picture, because people who did not get the opportunity to go get tested, they went ahead in the following week. And the other thing, it was kind of a nature-driven stay-at-home for a week, so it kind of helps with the COVID outbreak.
Very good. I am concerned about spring break coming up and what that's going to mean. So what are your thoughts on that?
I know, I'm the naysayer here. But, last year at spring break is where all of this sort of started happening. And I remember clearly people coming back from spring break, and we had to go out and make all kinds of decisions about what to do. My advice would be, yes, we're on a decline, but it's not the time to party and celebrate. So, again, people are going to do what they're going to do. But my advice as a public health director is, don't go to spring break, staycation. Till COVID is gone for good, staycation. So, okay, all right, vaccine update. So there are significant improvements and increases in our vaccine efforts. The biggest news lately is that Johnson & Johnson single-dose vaccine got the approval. I think last weekend the FDA approved it, and yesterday ACIP put out their recommendations with that vaccine. Now, it's a little bit of a different vaccine. The first two ones, the Pfizer and Moderna, they're mRNA technology, which I explained a few weeks ago. This one is a viral vector vaccine. So what it does, it takes a commonly used adenovirus. They cause common cold and other illnesses, but it uses an adenovirus that doesn't cause illness within humans and uses that as a transport mechanism. So what they've done is they've modified that virus to attach the genetic code of the spike protein of COVID. So then what they're doing is using the normal mechanism that our body gets attacked with, right? When you give them a virus, what's going to happen? The virus is going to attach to the cells, as you can see on the picture. It's going to go in, it's going to inject its particles saying, okay, make copies of me. But this virus is programmed not to make copies of itself. It's programmed to make copies of the spike protein. So the rest of the process is very similar to what's happening with the messenger RNA vaccine. The cell is going to produce messenger RNA. It's going to produce copies of the spike protein. That's how we will gain immunity. It's just a different way of delivering what we're getting with the other two. The benefit here is it is not as sensitive to upkeep. It's a hardy vaccine. The other two are messenger RNA, which is very, even in normal body function, it's a very fleeting type of thing. It is not very stable. So you have to have it ultra low freezers and all those type of things. This one's a little bit more hardy, can be maintained at normal refrigeration temperatures for a longer amount of time. Single dose, very effective. So logistically, it's an easier vaccine to use. Now, there are some data out there, and there's some questions about efficacy. So overall efficacy for this vaccine with a single dose is 72%, which is great. For flu vaccine, some years is less than half, less than 50%. The important thing to remember is 100% effective against COVID-related hospitalizations and 100% effective against COVID-related deaths. That's what we're worried about, right? I mean, that's all what we've been looking at. How many hospitalizations, how many deaths? So it is a 100% effective vaccine. Don't let the numbers fool you, because there are people that are going to say, oh, this is not as effective, I don't want this one. Yes, you do. Because this is a one and done, one shot, you don't have to come back. It's easier to distribute, easier to maintain. Some other vaccines that use this technology, Ebola vaccine, for example, that we just talked about, 100% effective, uses the same technology. AstraZeneca, which is not yet approved here in the US, but it is approved overseas and being used, again, an adenovirus vector vaccine, so they're very stable, very effective. In fact, AstraZeneca, which is up and coming for US, is being called a game changer, because the way they've got it programmed is maybe even more effective against the variants. So there's a lot of different things that are coming that we're very excited about, but this one is very, very good news. It's going to help improve vaccine supply. At the national level, what we know is that Johnson & Johnson is ready to distribute about 20 million doses in March. So just think about it. Currently, we had gone from 10 million doses a week to about 13.5 million doses a week. We're going to add probably another 5 million. That's about a 30% increase right off the bat here in March. This morning, they've announced a partnership with Merck, which is a major vaccine manufacturer. So they are thinking they're going to produce a lot more really quick. So this is very good news developing for all of us here who are looking to get the vaccine out quick. Any questions on that? I see some. Yes, ma'am.
Two questions. One is for the two previously released vaccines, you had a really good video. Do you have a video for the Johnson & Johnson?
I don't, but I'll try to find one.
Okay.
The graphic does kind of tell you how it does, work, but I will try to find a video if we can. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's a good educational tool.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the second thing was, what are there specific side effects for this vaccine that are unlike the others, or what?
Very similar. So what they've come up with the EUA is the only contraindication is if you are allergic to any known components manufactured by Johnson & Johnson, don't take the vaccine. But otherwise, side effects are expected to be similar. Injection site soreness, and then some people may get a fever and all those type of things. That's normal body reaction to any vaccine, and that's what they're expecting. Okay. Here's the update for this week. So from previous weeks, the major difference that started sort of last week here is now we have 7 major sites working. So we have, of course, our Resource Connection, the Bob Olin Public Safety Building, Northeast Tarrant County site at Hearst, the Esports Stadium in Arlington. Then we added the FEMA location at Globe Life Field. And then this past weekend, there was a launch of 2 drive-through locations. One was at Farrington Field, and the other one was at the TCU Amon G. Carter Stadium. All of those sites are going to be active on different days. So overall, we have 7 sites available that are publicly pushing out vaccine, and then there are the private providers like the THRs and the Baylor Scott & White and other entities like pharmacies and so forth. But as you can see, some days we're up to almost 5 or 6 sites working at the same time. That's a lot of capacity to push out a lot of vaccine. And so once we have more, I think we are in a good spot right now to pump out a large volume of vaccines. So I just wanted you to be aware that these things are working and coming together in a timely fashion. As we start to see increase in vaccine availability, we have the capacity to get it out. Next slide, let's see, there we go. So here's the update on what's happened across Tarrant County. This is a picture from all providers. This is data coming from MTRAC. So we've given out 315,000 doses. And let me tell you, this data, I was trying to get it always updated on a Monday evening so we can present it on Tuesdays, but the file was not coming every time consistently, so we've had to move the update date to Wednesdays. So this is good as of last Wednesday. So already we've had more added. So 314,000 people or doses administered across Tarrant County by all providers. And out of which, again, continually so far, we're seeing 94% are Tarrant County residents, 6% are out-of-county residents. 10% of the county, almost 212,000 people, have received at least one dose. And 102,000 people, or 5% of the county, has completed their series of 2 doses. So that's great news. Just look at those maps one time, especially the zip code one, and kind of try to remember that visual. I'll try to come back, but you can see some gaps in central part of Fort Worth that are still there. East Arlington is starting to improve just a tad bit, but the one zip code, I think it's 76010, is still falling behind. But there are some improvements happening as we talk about this and get people motivated to get vaccinated. Things are on a little bit of an upward trend on there, but there are still some gaps there. Here's the race, ethnic distribution and age groups. As you can see, age distribution is sort of wide, but senior age group is obviously receiving, and I expect this to increase over the next few weeks because of the FEMA sites being here. We're pushing a lot of socially vulnerable people and including seniors over 75 to get the vaccine at that location. So I expect this number to increase quite significantly. Race ethnic distribution, again, every percentage point is going to take a lot of effort. So we went up from 5 to 6%, I think last week. We saw that with the African American population. We're still at 6%. Similarly, with the race ethnic or the ethnicity distribution, we're still at 7% on Hispanic and Latino. Because again, every percentage point is going to take a lot of effort now that the denominator is big. But it goes back to making sure these folks are signed up so we can get those folks vaccinated. Okay, so now if you could remember the chart, is you can see the signups. They're still lighter blues in middle part of Fort Worth and eastern part of Arlington. And it's sort of, the darker blues correlate with where the vaccine has gone out the most. I'm sorry, I gotta go back. Whoops. Somebody help me. Click too many times.
Don't touch
Lonnie,
him.
take her back. Take him back.
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, now I think I found the reverse button.
Leave it alone.
Okay. I know. So if you can see the map, it was lighter in the middle, and it was correlating to lighter in the middle signups. So the point I'm trying to make is we need to increase our sign-up efforts in these areas so that as a correlation to that, folks can get vaccinated. There are other things that our court has, given us direction on last week about, socially vulnerable folks. They're being prioritized, but the first effort is that those are in our database are being prioritized. But if they're not there, that's a whole other issue, and we are going to have to make an effort to get those signed up.
And that, I thought, is what we employed UNT to do, to come up with the communications and to really work in those neighborhoods, because we recognized that we were having problems there. I know that, we've talked about them maybe contacting the churches, Tarrant churches together, along with, again, that's what we asked them to come up with a program to do. So, Mr. Manning, I hope that next week we can have them here to talk about where they are in not only that, but also site locations and just overall what it will have been a month since we approved the.
And we have been having meetings with UNT and also the city of Fort Worth on the communication piece. But yes, I agree. I think we need to bring UNT back now and have them report back to the Commissioner's Court.
Now this will mark this week will mark the end of the first week with the FEMA. We've got 2 more weeks where we'll be giving out first shots, And so the more folks we can get there, we've got free transportation through Catholic Charities, through the T, and through VIA. So, I mean, we need to get that word out so that, you know, we can encourage these folks to sign up and be able to get them there. I know Commissioner Allen, you've done 2 or 3, I believe, sign-up type campaigns.
Yeah, we'll be doing our 4th on Saturday. So Vinny, I wanted to talk about with the FEMA side and concerns about the no-show rate. Can you talk more about that?
Yes, I will, but can I make a quick comment? So UNT is obviously going to help us, but there are other entities. So there's some churches that are doing sign-up events. Immunization Collaboration of Tarrant County, which has been a great partner. I think they're about to launch on a sign-up drive, and I think their first focus is East Arlington, and then they're going to come back to Fort Worth. And what they're going to have is MRC volunteer teen students helping sign up people, and they're going to have multiple units go out in different parts of the community. They're starting with one in East Arlington. I think they're going to replicate that model. They're talking to some school districts to get these volunteers as well. So the point is, a lot of people are going to get involved, and there's a lot of different entities that are trying to help us.
I understand that,
Yes.
but the whole reason we went with
Yes, sir.
UNT was because you don't have the staff and the
Yes.
personnel to do this.
Correct.
They are supposed to be coordinating all of that.
Yes.
So I hope that they're the ones that are working with all these folks, and that we hired them to do that, let's let them, this is
Correct.
the pot calling the kettle black. Let's let them do what we have employed them to do and not
Yes,
get
understood.
in the middle.
And we'll continue to do that. So going back to the no-show rate concern, yes, ma'am. So yes, all across our county sites, we're seeing no-show rates increase and the show rate decline. That means if I invite 100 people, a certain percentage is not showing up. So in the beginning, what we had seen was people were showing up at about an 80% rate, then it went to about 75. Now some days we're down to 50% show rate. And we've been analyzing and looking at what may be the issue. We're doing a few things starting today. We have a message ready to go out to all our registrants. It would go out through our automated calling system. And it's somewhat of a poll, a survey, if you will, that you are on our waiting list to be to get a COVID vaccine. And we're working quickly to get you an appointment. However, we need you to answer these, pick a choice. You want to stay on the list because you're still interested. You want to be removed from the list because you've gotten the vaccine elsewhere, or you just want to be removed from the list because you're not interested. And we are going to then bring that data back into our system and take away people that say, yep, cancel my appointment, I'm done. And that's fine. That will help us clean up our data. Second thing, what we're noticing is that we've hit that time frame where there was a lot of duplications, people registering multiple times. So we've done the easy part where a couple of big tries where exact matches were removed. Now it's where people have put in different information. They might have put a different email address, they might have put in a different phone number, they might have changed their name, and gone in and registered multiple times. So my team is actually meeting now to look at all of this data duplication, and we're going to try to clean it up hopefully this week so we get a better quality data set to call people out. So those two things are going to improve hopefully the show rate, because when you make a call out and you're making the same person get 3 calls, automatically they're only going to show up one time, and you got a no-show because those calls went out to the same person. So those are 2 major improvements. Another thing, we've had this registration ID piece that you can look up your status. We even added a function about a month ago to be able to reschedule or call or cancel your appointment. But the registration ID remains a problem for some people. So hopefully by this Friday, we're going to expand that functionality. There's going to be 3 buttons on a page, so to speak. On the left-hand side, you're going to see a button saying, okay, request a registration ID. And the way it's going to work is you put in your email address and you put in your date of birth. If you use the same one that you used to register with, then it's going to send you an email with your registration ID, so it's going to become a lot easier. We are not going to mass email out because our system had problems with that. People are going to request their registration ID, and they're going to get it. And then you can use that to either do a status check. You put in your registration ID on the second button and put in your date of birth, and you can check a status, and it will send you an email with your status. Or on the third button, you can come back and say, okay, I want to cancel my appointment or ask for a one-time reschedule. And so once that is released, it's going to be another avenue for people to come back to us. Because some people really do want to contact us saying, yep, I got my vaccine at so-and-so, so I don't need your help anymore. Let me cancel my appointment. So that functionality will be released. So those are the few things that we're doing currently to improve data quality, and hopefully we'll see an improvement in the show rates as well with that.
So, Vinny, would you also talk a little bit about the message that we sent out, or that your office sent out last week, as far as what they were currently working and not to re-register?
Yes. So last week, Commissioners Court directed us to send out a communication, and we're going to do this on a weekly basis, to all our registrants to give them sort of a one-time status update on where we are. So we sent that message out. I think I had sent a draft to you all in your emails, but it sort of read like, okay, there's this many people registered, out of which how many have we currently vaccinated, and what date are we currently booking our most appointments from. So it was kind of a quick status update, very generic, not to an individual, but here's what's happening overall. So we sent it out to a lot of people. I don't have an exact number, but several 100,000 in our database that don't have yet an appointment with us. It's gone out to those folks. And we will continue to do that on a weekly basis, hopefully on a Friday, Saturday time frame.
And you also make the point that not to re-register.
Not to re-register, yes. We put that in there because we want to avoid people re-registering. It clutters the database, and then downstream impacts of people getting a call out and then not showing up because they've already gotten another call. Yes, sir.
And I want to make sure that I heard you correctly. When you said that we will now start sending an email once a week, that's just like to update people to let them know, yes, you're still registered, there's how many people are registered. Okay, so once a week.
Once a week, it will be a Everbridge call-out message that goes multiple ways. So it sends a call, which is an automated call. It sends a text message. It leaves a voicemail if you don't pick up, and it also sends an email if there's an email registered in the account. So it does all of those things.
Okay, great. And then, because I haven't heard from anyone directly who had been vaccinated through the drive-through clinics, but how has that been going? What have we heard back from people in terms of their experience?
So experience-wise, people liked it. It was faster, easier. We got a lot of positive feedback. But as with anything, with last week's show rate being poor, our drive-thrus also had a poor show rate. So at the end of Saturday, there was about 300 doses left that looked like they were going to expire because the last day to use those was Sunday. So our team, they called and said, what should we do? So we said, well, if there's any family members in the car that are eligible for the vaccine, take them, because you don't want to waste doses. That's how you want to get rid of the vaccine, not keep it going, just get it used. Well, then that word got out on social media. Somebody put it on social media, hey, I just came from this site, they have a lot of vaccine left, go. Well, that created a major surge. There were a couple hundred cars that came in, and after they kind of estimated how many they needed, they had to cut off the line. So there were some unhappy people, but that's just reality. I mean, those weren't what we were inviting, but we were thankful that people came, so we got rid of all our vaccine, nothing got wasted. We were down to 0 vaccine at the end of the day. And so far, I'm very proud of my team. We've given out, over 150,000 doses and 0 waste recorded in our system. That is great news.
And you captured those?
Yes.
Who showed up without registration?
Correct, yes, sir.
And we're now able to
send them for the second dose. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. That's part of the process. So TCU drive-through, on the other hand, went great. They used their Epic system, I think, where they record everybody, and they had over 1,000 people show there. Similar to ours. Ours was, I think, 1,047. Theirs was about 1,080. So I think both drive-throughs, even though it was sort of a soft launch weekend, went well. Hopefully next week we'll have bigger numbers, and we'll just keep improving from there.
All we need is more vaccine.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
So, keep talking with anybody you know at the state and say, we need more vaccine, because week 10, we got about 26,000 first shot vaccines. Week 11, we got 11,700, excluding the FEMA. And last week, we went from 11,700 up to about 14,715. So we're still not back to what we were at in week 10. And I believe that in the last 2 weeks, the vaccines coming to the state has increased. Now, and just, I'll put my little disclaimer on here as a bean counter. When the state says they're allocating to try to get the percentages all the same based upon population as a percentage of the total population of the state, we are still ahead. If you include the FEMA vaccines, we're still ahead of everybody, except that I think Denton and Collin County may have overtaken us this week. But that was not the understanding that we went into this deal. We went in with the understanding that our weekly allocations would not be cut, and they have been. Now, in about a week, they're not going to be able to make that argument anymore if they continue to divide it like they've been dividing it, and our numbers should begin to, our first shot numbers should begin to go up a little bit. And as I've said before, and I want to again thank y'all and applaud y'all for it, we are getting ready. Farrington Field, the TCU, all of these locations are these little dry runs, or these slower numbers, smaller numbers, are in anticipation of when we're going to be inundated with vaccines, and we want to have places that we can send people and get them in their arms. And again, UNT, I believe, are looking for other places.
Yes, sir.
In addition to the ones, in the Farrington Fields or the TCUs. Globe Life Field can take many more, or can give out many more than the 3,000, especially with the FEMA people here. eSports could give out more. Hearst could give out more. We've got, I think, the capacity to do over 20 to 25,000 vaccines a day. Right now, we don't have anything like that much. So we're prepared. We've just got to get the vaccines here. And that's our goal, and we should keep that focus and continue to be prepared to set up sites in anticipation of the day when, maybe we're getting 50,000 first shots and 50,000 second shots a week. And I hope that's going to be a day that's going to be coming soon.
And one thing I did want to acknowledge for our teams who are out there in the field working real hard, we were leading the state. I want to make sure that people understand that. When I say this is not just because we're boisterous. We truly were leading the state. And I think they've seen that, and they're trying to rebalance that, which obviously hurts us because we've got all these assets ready to go, and we want to get our county done. A little, I guess, proud of what we're doing, but also at the same time, we want the work to keep happening because that gets us out of the pandemic faster. But I see what they were trying to do. It's just we were really, truly leading the pack.
He's exactly right. And I mean, I'm making noise right now. I'd be screaming if we weren't. As he said, we're still leading right now. We are still leading as far as the number of vaccines that have come to this county when you look at the population. But we want more.
Yes,
and it's just
absolutely.
that simple.
And we've got the capacity to do it. So thank you.
Well,
All right.
Vinny, to your point about all the teams that are out there making this distribution happen, I mean, obviously, folks are doing their jobs, but a simple thank you goes a long way. So I definitely thank everyone that is out there making sure that we're getting these vaccines out. I did visit the FEMA site yesterday and talked with an Arlington resident who was really raving about her experience, and as Chief Crossan had shared, for that particular day, from when people hit the door to when they've had their vaccine, they've had their observation period, and they're out the door is about 40 minutes. I haven't heard anyone who's actually went to a site and got a vaccine complain about the amount of time that it took, which is great. You know, still the complaint is, I'm waiting for my appointment,
Yes.
which we understand that. But all in all, everyone is doing a great job, and I just want to say thanks for that.
And while we're on that topic, so one final comment, and I'll get off here. So look at the numbers, 625,000 registered, and as you can see at the bottom, around 493,000 are currently eligible. Let me point out to you how many total, 314,000 have had at least received one dose. Now, they were not all off our list. Off our list, 240,000 people have received doses. So that tells you almost 50% of those that are currently eligible in our database have been vaccinated or given an appointment. They may not have shown up. Some of them may not have shown up. But they've been given an opportunity to get vaccinated, and we've given 240,000 doses out through the public health efforts. So a lot of work has been done. Now, does that mean that other people are going to come due? Yes, when new categories open, these other folks are going to come due. So the work's not done, but we're making great progress here.
And I just want to reiterate the thanks to the folks who are doing this, the volunteers, the folks that are paid, the FEMA folks. Every one of them are working just tirelessly, and that's the other thing that I hear is how nice the people were, how helpful the people were as they took them through the process. At Globe Life Field, they have a number of wheelchairs that they have found and made available, and someone will actually go out and help the person out of the car, get them in the wheelchair, and will bring them in if they don't have someone to help them with that process. And you know, as you said, TCU said their process went great. Farrington Field's process went great. At those drive-through locations, while it is extremely convenient to the individuals getting the shots because they don't have to get out of their car, remember that those folks who are volunteering at those locations or working at those locations, many of them are in the elements. You know, there's those that are in the tent and they get to give the shot, and you know, they're in the weather, but they're not in the weather.
Right. There's people though who are checking people in the vehicles and all that. Yes,
and
sir.
if it's raining out there, they're in the rain. If it's, you know, if it's 40 degrees, they're in the weather. If it's 70 degrees, they're in the weather. And those folks are we especially want to reach out and tell them how much we appreciate, because even in those situations, I've heard nothing but just glowing comments about how friendly they were, how helpful they were. And you don't have to go far to the east to hear about 3 or 4 hour lines.
Yes, sir.
And we have got the system down. Arlington's fire department is doing a fantastic job and has trained many.
That is correct.
They have I think just about everybody in Tarrant County has gone to there, and they've had people from all over the state come up and look at the way they're doing their process. So enough, you know, I cannot give enough thanks to Chief Crossan and his department, fire department there in Arlington, and everything they've done to help train. The FEMA people said exactly the same thing. You know, FEMA may have come in and they may be in control, but the person pulling the strings are the Arlington Fire Department. FEMA is there, and to their credit, I mean, they're doing a great job. They're managing all those supplies. You know, that's the military. They got it down, but boy, they're sure depending upon Arlington's fire department, because most of these folks had not dealt with any of the vaccines or had put shots in the arms of any of the COVID, with the COVID vaccines before they got here. And they'll leave here well-trained and well-prepared to do that. So thank you, thank your people, and we want to thank everybody who's working at these sites and the way they're approaching the citizens and the helpfulness that they're giving.
Thank you, folks, and I'll pass the message along to the team. Thank you.
Any other questions of Vinny before he gets out of here or before he sits back down? Thank you. Thanks, Vinny. Mr. Manius.
So, Your Honor, we're going to now go to the administrator section, and we're going to start with A1, I believe we do have some audience participation forms that wish to address this particular issue.
And Mr. Mangus, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and do the other one while we're at this point in the audience participation.
Yes, yes.
And I think what I'll do is I'll start off with non-COVID related, and then we'll move from there, because after that, then we'll move into your report on that.
Thank you.
So under the audience participation form, Mr. Tony Abbs has asked to speak, and so I would ask him to come down at this point in time for any comments that you wish to make. Now, I understand this is not about COVID.
Yes, sir.
So you have 3 minutes, and please give your name and then proceed.
My name is Tony Abbs, and I spoke to her several times about this topic that would happen to me on November the 3rd in front of the court on Miller Street. I spoke to the gentleman here. I can't pronounce your name. I'm sorry.
GK.
I spoke to the gentleman here, but and I tell him that the one thing that I want to express, and I'm not a public speaker or anything, so please bear with me, that my First Amendment was violated on that day. And it was attacked. And in this day and time, as we be seeing that our First Amendment is being attacked over and over again. And these constables, I know he said that all y'all want them to do is serve papers, but they police too. They police us too, okay? They give us tickets. I mean, they policemen, and they should have on video, and they should have on recording. And I'm not giving this up. If they're gonna police us, they need to have this on, because the way they cussed me out, and all the names, and I said those names before, I'm not gonna say them again, but my mom didn't raise no B, she didn't raise no H. And for them to say these words and have nothing on there so we can leave, that's a problem. And the main problem is our First Amendment. I mean, this is what America was fought for. The First Amendment. Our fathers, they made the First Amendment. This is what they did in the 60s. They marched where we can have Miss Allen, Commissioner Brooks to sit where they at. Because they used their First Amendment. They marched for this. And these constables, they stopped that. And that is wrong. That is dead wrong. In the language they use, and they say that they are ministers. And that would get me the most. They say that they're preachers. And they use these words. And they just, and when I speak to Constable, can't think of his name, I had it on Campbell, he just said, this is nigger, I should leave it alone. That came out of his word, and he's an elected official. So I'm not giving up on this, okay? I'm not giving up on this at all. If these guys are gonna police us, and they're gonna use these words, we need to have video and record on that. Because we had it on there and they said these things, y'all be able to hear it and y'all be able to be there to see how they do and how they represent the county in our community. Because I'm not a B. I mean, yes, I played football, but I graduated from A&M. Yeah, I went to Cox and I got my master's. I'm not a B and I'm not an H. When I worked with Charlie Hill up at Ford, I worked for him at university and I worked for him with Brian Urban. I was the finance manager. I had coffee at Starbucks with Commissioner Brooks almost every morning. I'm not a B, I'm not an H. I'm not standing for that. I'm not going to stop.
Thank you, Mr. Abbs. We hear you. Thank you very much for. I know that that's not on the agenda today, and as we approach the budget process, I'd like to know whether or not there's been any consideration, and I'd like to at least know what the cost would be. Do we have cameras for our patrol deputies?
For the sheriff's department, we do, yes. And I believe that we have cameras for Precinct 7 constable that they pay from their forfeiture funds. And I believe they pay for the storage also of the data. but we have historically not provided cameras, body cams, for the constables' offices.
Okay.
And just for a note to the court, I've spoken several times with this gentleman and in-depth conversations, and it's just a matter of who has authority to do certain things. That's what this issue may well depend on. Any of you would like a briefing, I'll ask the DA's office to see if we can get this briefing in a closed session, because it does require some type of legal definition as to the authority of the Commissioner's Court versus the authority of other elements within the county.
Let's go ahead and put that briefing on if you can. Okay, next are, I've got 3 audience participations with regards to the COVID matters. The first is Jonathan Guion. Yeah, that's the word. That's the way you pronounce it. I will call him at this point in time.
Hello?
Good morning, Jonathan. This is Judge Whitley. We're at the audience participation time.
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. This is Judge Whitley. We're at our audience participation time. And so you had indicated an interest in speaking. So you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hello all. My name is Jonathan Guadian. I am a resident of Tarrant County and I live in the 76119 zip code. Evidently, Judge Glenn Whitley is considering endorsing ending the county mask mandates, providing that Governor Abbott puts an end to the mandate for the state of Texas. I'm here to talk about why that would be a very bad idea. Tarrant County Jail has had some of the worst COVID-19 numbers so far as county jails are concerned within the state of Texas. To date, 6 people in custody have died from the disease. At the highest, 81 jailers have had the disease, including the Tarrant County Sheriff. And at the highest, 80 people in custody have had the disease. The Star Telegram published an in-depth article on the first in-custody death of 2021 for Cedric Teal. And while his story is riddled with so many other forms of systemic abuse that have yet to be addressed by the Sheriff's Department, we cannot overlook the fact that Cedric died of COVID-19 89 days after having been booked into jail, which clearly indicates that Cedric caught the disease while in jail custody, which would result in his death. As stated earlier, at the highest, Tarrant County Jail had 81 jailers sick with the disease all at once. Although there is no evidence to prove it yet, it wouldn't be a far-fetched assumption to claim that Cedric probably caught the disease from a jailer or a staff member. With 19 in-custody deaths since the pandemic, negligence from Tarrant County Sheriff's Office is nothing new to us. And so I urge you, Judge Whitley, if you value human life and the lives of our incarcerated community members, you will retain the county mask ordinance despite what Governor Abbott decides. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Have a good day. Next is Robert Bucher. I believe he is present. And then following Robert is Blanca Martinez.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Bucher. Once again, I'm going to continue to keep showing pictures of Governor Abbott during the pandemic with the small business associations in Dallas. No mask on every one of them. No, imagine that. Keeps getting away with it. Then you have Dr. Fauci on camera, no mask on, pulled it down for a total of 10 minutes in a video. Then here recently, Cowtown Coliseum. Large, God, no mask, that's embarrassing. Here's a little bit more clear picture of Abbott, no mask with everybody else. Here's some more. It's embarrassing. Time and time again, it keeps stabbing you in the back, same way FEMA did with the vaccinations. In our 11 months of trying to flatten the curve, we have flattened kids' hopes and dreams, flattened perfectly good businesses, flattened people's mental health, and flattened the country's economy. Great public health tactics. Instead of focusing in this pandemic and being a tyrant, why don't you focus on things that really matter? The things that I read in your bios, like jail reform. 13 deaths in an 8-month period in Tarrant County Jail is highly frowned upon. And also surprising that they haven't lost their certification for the second time. What about focusing on true reform, which starts from all the way down from the DA to the correctional officer to the jail administration? There's your true reform. How do you stop recidivism? Also, reform start in your courtrooms as well with the bias that's been portrayed in this courtroom and courtrooms around Tarrant County. Reform on public health directors is something else that needs to be looked at. To stop the mitigation of the virus in jails, you must look at the policies and procedures on how they have backed up, whether it be the bond departments all the way down to release. Look at how the APs are being treated, the arrested persons, if y'all don't know what AP is. So instead of being hyper-focused on things like the vaccine, we need to look at other stuff around this county. If you can't multitask in this position, then this is definitely not the job for you.
1 minute.
It's time that we get the people that can particularly focus on the people and people around Tarrant County instead of kickbacks they get from hospitals or some kind of big businesses or ambulance violations, which is what that is called. For a virus with a 99.9% chance of survival rate per the CDC, and it's also on their CDC website and the DSHH website. Despite the public health lying multiple times on camera, seems like there should be a lot of reforms that we need to start looking at moving forward. Because I don't hear anything else about the vaccine, but then we have people that died because of lack of planning 10 days ahead to get the roads treated. Instead, they just let them crash. And that is on y'all. And honestly, the Commissioner's Court and Tarrant County Judge, this is laughable at this point of all the stuff that y'all continue to let go and not look beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bucher. Next is Blanca Martinez.
I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Good afternoon to the judge and the commissioners and everyone in the court. Thank you for having us. I have some copies for you too, if I may.
She'll hand them to him. He'll distribute them up to us.
Okay. The first one on the copy is the proclamation. Oh, I gave you the wrong one. I'm sorry. The one that isn't stapled is mine. Can you start the clock again? I'm so disorganized. Social workers aren't, no, this one, that's yours, okay. The proclamation of the Collin County Judge, which is from the Commissioner's Court in Collin County. And the reason I'm bringing this is in hopes that perhaps you can follow that model based on science, based on our Constitution, and based on our rights as human beings and as Christians to not disregard our rights and our freedoms that our forefathers fought so hard for. Whereas on March 16, 2020, I issued a declaration of local disaster for public health emergency for Collin County in response to COVID-19. And whereas ongoing business closures and government-imposed restrictions related to COVID-19 have threatened the lives, the livelihoods, and liberty of Texans. And whereas on March 24, 2020, I declared that all businesses, jobs, and workers are essential. Whereas constitutionally protected rights do not cease to exist in the midst of a crisis, Hallelujah. No, the hallelujah I added. And executive orders are and must always be subordinate to the provision of the Constitution. Whereas there are no county-issued emergency orders, forced closures, or government mandates in Collin County, now therefore I hereby rescind and cancel the declaration of local disaster for public health emergency for Collin County. I hope to see one like that for us. I also have copies here, two articles pertaining to State Representative Matt Schaefer, who authored two bills, 2097 and 2098. In an effort, he says here, they were introduced on Tuesday. The governor, here it is, the governor cannot create a crime and then also enforce the crime. And I think that his announcement today will reflect that now he acknowledges that. That is a clear violation of separation of powers, Schaefer wrote. No one person should ever have that power. The simple truth is that not only the legislator is constitutionally authorized to create, amend, or abolish criminal laws. There's another article here from the following the example of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, state representative. I just got back from Florida. It was a blessing to be in a state that does not require masks and all this other restrictions. Yes, they do wear masks, but it's according to the individual, not forced by the government. This is not socialism. This is not communism. This is America, and it is free. On Tuesday, Schaefer filed House Bills 2097 and 2098, both of which would end the governor's and local officials' mask mandates, bar them from ever issuing such mandates ever again unless the legislature authorizes it, and take away officials' ability to fine citizens for not following their emergency orders. Right now, they have $250 that they can be fined. I am encouraging all that are listening, or they may be here and may be listening, to please call and speak to your representatives and let them know that they should honor the Constitution, that they should honor God by taking the lead in this situation and having the guts to stand up to freedom and to the right to the people. Please call your representatives. God bless you. Did I go over?
Yes,
I'm
you
sorry.
will.
I'm sorry. God bless you. Thank you.
That's the end of our audience participations, Mr. Manings. Do you have anything else under item 1?
Yes, we do have our weekly update. Ms. South is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There we go. So we're going to go ahead and move right into the pillars. There weren't any substantial changes from last week. We did add some information under the social services pillar related to the eviction diversion program. Just noting that the referrals began on February 1st, and we currently have 21 active referrals. We do expect that we'll receive weekly updates on that program, and that as we move further into the process, we'll have more to bring to you to report. And at the end of my presentation today, Kristen will give a more detailed update on the emergency rental assistance program. Any questions on any of the pillar slides? If not, we're going to move on to the vaccination update. So we changed the layout of this just a little bit, so that we were only reporting on specific vaccination efforts. So as Vinny had already stated, the 2 drive-through vaccination sites at Farrington Field and Amon G. Carter opened up this past weekend. Both sites are working well and running smoothly. And since the opening of these 2 sites, along with the FEMA site at Globe Life Field, we now have a total of 7 public health partnership sites. And the capacity for all 7 sites is up to 91,000 shots per week. And then the FEMA site at Globe Life Field, I know Vinny said it was activated last week, and on day 1 they administered about 515 vaccines, and that site is expected to administer around 3,000 per day, 7 days per week. And then there's one last bullet point on this one that I'll touch on. It's this contract with MCF Tech. This is for vaccination registration translation efforts. It's on the agenda today for ratification. And currently the public health, I think, tracks the vaccination registration process in a quick base application. So this will be an add-on to that application that will allow the application itself to be translated into Spanish and Vietnamese for public use, and then that application, once filled out, will be translated back into English for internal staff reading it. This program will also allow the flexibility for other languages, not just Spanish and Vietnamese. And its timeline for implementation and deployment of it is short, so it's a quick turnaround time. Any questions on that before I move forward?
No, not a question, but a comment. It seems like the mic keeps cutting in and out. I don't know if that's just me. But.
Okay. Kyle, I hope you heard that back there. Maybe I'll try to talk a little louder. Okay, and then just a quick update on the call center. So that did go live on the 24th. They started out with 28 agents and that transfer of the one public health line. So approximately 4,000 vaccine-related calls were received. Half of those were transferred over to Group O to be answered. They are adding additional agents daily, I believe, at this point to adjust to the call volume and the caller language needs that they've encountered. So I do have, again, Kathy's here from Public Health if we have any detailed questions.
I guess the one question I would have, what's our wait time right now?
So there was a learning curve. The first day, I don't think it went as well as we had hoped, but they are having daily calls with Group O. They're picking it up. It's getting shorter and shorter. Kathy, did you want to elaborate at all?
Good morning.
Good morning.
There was a bit of a lag time on those first few days. They did have up to an hour wait time at that point. They did adjust. We have been having the daily calls, as Megan mentioned, and the average queue time in the last few days has been 6 to 7 minutes.
Good.
So they did get that down. There are peaks and valleys in the days, so they are looking to see when those peaks are so they could apply more agents during that time period. So it does fluctuate still, but
Are most of
the
your
average
calls
is looking
related
good.
to registration and when we're going to get called for the vaccines?
Those are the majority of the calls, yes, yes. They do field general questions as well.
So when that happens, when a call comes in, does it first hit this Group O call center?
Yes, if they choose option 7, that is the line that's being transferred to Group O.
Okay,
And
so hold on right there.
I'm sorry, I have that reversed.
No, that's fine. But are you telling me they've got to listen to 1 through 7 before they get to 7 to push?
Actually, no. In our greeting, we do mention immediately that option 4 and option 7 are available for vaccine calls. Option 4 is actually the one that transfers to Group O, and option 7 is the one that stays with TCPH. But that's in the greeting, so immediately after the greeting, they can press at that time.
Okay, so I just love those things. So in the greeting, it says, if this question is about vaccine registration, some way or another you tell them to push 4 if...
Correct. It's I can't think of the exact verbiage offhand, but it's please press 4 or press 7 if you have any vaccine-related calls or need assistance with registration.
So how do they know which one?
It says or, so you could press either one. And then as you go through the options after the greeting's completed, it does go through press 1, press 2, and then when it gets to press 4, it says the same, and then again press 7 and it says
What's
the
the
same.
difference between 4 and 7?
Nothing.
Well, then why do we have 7?
Well, TCPH is answering one line. We did that initially because there were so many calls for vaccine. That one line had created a very large queue for TCPH. So we opened up 2 lines, and that's when UNT began to help us until we could get in contract with Group O. So one line was transferred to UNT for assistance to help TCPH, and then TCPH agents answered the second line. It was similar to what we did with testing
With great
last
hesitancy,
summer.
I asked, how many different buttons can you push? When's the end of, if you want to start all over, push this number? Or stay on the line and we'll start all over?
I believe the call, I think they would hang up to press another button. But there is a callback option on the Group O.
But I guess what I'm saying is that as you get past your first greeting, you've already told me that there's that you're listing 7 different options. Is there really 8 or 9 different options, or do you go to 10 or 11, or how many different options are we pushing on this phone call?
There are technically 6 options, because option 5 is for Spanish speaking, direct Spanish speaking, so that is mentioned in the greeting, and it's not repeated again when the options are listed after the greeting, but there are actual 7 options.
What happens if I push 0?
I believe you go back to the greeting.
So I can't get to a live body come hell or high water?
Oh, yes. Well, all of our options, for example, test results is option number 1. So that is a call that's being transferred to UNT, which is a live body. Yes, as soon as you press the option, if there's no hold queue, you would receive a person.
But if I really want to speak to a live person because I'm not sure where I fall and all that deal.
Immediately,
I'm not going to get to a live person immediately.
it would depend on the call queue for that particular option. But I will say that we have noticed in all options, people are pressing, for vaccine. They may have pressed 1 or they may have pressed 2. And so we're trying to assist them regardless of what option they're pressing. Absolutely.
You like that, Commissioner Johnson? I know how much you love those.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful program.
Well, and it may be too soon since we have launched just less than a week ago, but I'm curious to see what other trends are really apparent right now. I mean, obviously it'll take some time to see, but with those peak times, what are those peak times right now that we're seeing?
We're asking for that. Our IT did provide them a report of the call volume and the scales of the prior weeks to go into Group O. So they're kind of tracking, using that, and then tracking what they've been answering in the last week to determine the best peak times. We kind of see it all day long, but yes, they are addressing that to see when the most calls come in. For example, they did mention on Sunday, there was at one point about 16 in a queue, and then within an hour it had jumped over to 100. And it may have, been in relation to the message that was sent out, so we're trying to see what those correlations might be.
And Kathy, understand, I appreciate everything you're doing. I just hate it when I get on there and it's 1 and it doesn't end until 7. And I'm sitting here.
He's the press 0 guy. He just keep pressing.
I'm going to be hitting that 0 about the second one. I'm just going to 0. I'm just telling you that.
I understand. But and you could press at any time. You could press during the greeting.
Well, all that does is start me over. So after I've done it the first time, then I'm really mad because now I got to start all over. And if I listen through 4, I've got to get all the way through 4 again before I can go to 5.
What's the whole purpose of the phone? What's the whole purpose of the call? Information,
and we are also assisting with registration if they need assistance with registration.
Information?
Correct.
Is the primary reason people are calling is to get information about a vaccine?
Correct, yes.
Why don't you have the vaccine number be 1 and 2 or 2 or something way down at the beginning?
We could do that. We could change the order, absolutely.
My office set up a deal because we kept getting calls from everybody in our building, and they put our number as number 9. And you go through, you can talk to the constable, the tax office. I said, no, they're calling for us. Put our number 1.
Sure, we can do that.
Change it.
We will.
To 1 or 2, and you don't have your problem.
Well, you're right, because I'll push that number 1 and I'm free. I don't have to listen to whatever. And I think if that's the majority, that's a very good point.
The vaccine.
Yeah. So, or registering.
We can do that.
I think the registration may be the other thing. And the language is also an issue. So if, maybe one of the first things is, if you need something other than English, press whatever, 1. If you need registration or vaccination questions 2, but we got to get it down from 7 different options to.
Sure. We just, some of the options remained from our call queues before: test results, contact tracing, the health nurse line, school reports, and cases of clusters that needed to be reported. So that those were, had been pulled through from the previous actions at that time. Vaccine, we kind of added in,
Again,
but yes, we can certainly rearrange that order.
Gets the most activity, and if it's vaccines.
If it's 6, make it 1.
Sure, we will do that.
Well,
We will
I
work on
think that also is just a function of, a reflection of all the work that you all are doing and the type of calls that you're getting. I mean, so I certainly hear y'all's concerns.
I understand.
I would like to know, in terms of the reporting, I think that we were capturing, I guess, was it the zip code that people are calling from? Was that it? Or I felt like there was something that would give some geographic indication. And what I'm leading to is, if in our numbers we're starting to see a higher incidence of these type of questions or concerns from a specific area, then that would help me in my office and us guiding our outreach efforts, so that we know to kind of target a particular area with the information or messaging or whatever.
I'd be surprised if there.
Yeah, we can. I think we can ask Grupo, perhaps if they ask for a zip
I don't know
code.
how they would work with the cell phone, but we'll check in on that.
Okay.
Yes, we can do that.
But at that point in time, and let me be sure, because if you're saying, okay, we want you to ask everybody you talk with what zip code they are, then you're going to have to record that zip code someplace.
And we're trying to see if, when they call in, if it'll recognize the area, I guess the location. Is that what you're saying?
Right. I hopefully I didn't make this up, but I felt like there was something that you all had presented to us in, like, the functionality of the contract or something, that we were capturing information that had some type of geographic indicator attached to it. And if I made that up, then I made it up. I don't want to create more work.
Let us
My
just
point
check.
was,
Let us check on
yeah,
that.
if it's data we're already getting, I want to make sure that we're using the data to guide our decisions. That's the point.
I hope next week we'll be able to report back on whatever data we are collecting from Grupo, and we'll check to see if that data is included in there.
Okay.
If not, we'll request it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are we publicizing the group? How are we publicizing the call center info to encourage people to call? And the two big things I think that we're concerned with is information regarding the vaccines and registering.
Right. We do have, the phone number 248, the hotline number is on the website. It's also on the registration page for the COVID shot. So it's wherever the hotline is being advertised or listed would be that same number.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so, whoops. So very quickly, just want to mention that we did want to provide a quick transportation update related to the vaccinations. So currently, the county has partnered with Trinity Metro and Arlington Via and HandyTran to offer free trips within their service areas to the TCPH vaccination sites and the FEMA site at Globe Life Field. So Kristen Camarino is working with staff to create a web page for the program that will provide an overview of the different transportation providers along with the sites that they will service. So Tarrant County Public Health will provide a link to the site for everyone who receives a vaccination appointment so that they can review. And then we have also provided a weekly report in your red folders, and we'll continue to do so each week. But just know that all providers are up and running and have information on their websites as well. Does anyone have any questions?
Just a comment. I understand from talking with Kristen this morning that we are on the verge of an agreement with Trinity Metro to provide service directly to Globe Life Field and AT&T. I hope that that will come to fruition in the next few days.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And then lastly, on the last two couple of slides are the grant update and the spend update. There haven't been any substantial changes to either one of those slides, but I'll try to answer any questions if you have any. And if not, that is all that I have today.
So Kristen, do you want to make your report?
Oh, you'll switch the clicker on me. Nope. Nope.
Don't push that.
All right. Figured it out. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning, Kristen.
While we do have several rental assistance programs ongoing and in the works, including the diversion program that I spoke about a few weeks ago, I wanted to take a few minutes this morning to give you an update on where we are with the emergency rental assistance program. That's the program for which we received about $24 million and are working now to roll out. Let's see here. We are implementing a few different tools for this program that I hope to that will improve the process over the program that we ran last year. One of those is a screening portal, which I'll go over later in the presentation. A software vendor has been selected that will provide a software built out specifically for the emergency rental assistance program, as well as a call center that will assist our staff in handling all of the questions that we receive typically from landlords and renters as the program progresses. Staff training, systems implementation, and process coordination, I think will take another 2 weeks. And then after that, we will do systems testing to be sure that everything runs smoothly before deploying the program in late March. We will run a targeted outreach campaign, but we'll wait about a month after soft launch. We want to be sure that we've run through all of the kinks and the processes before we do that. I'll talk a little bit later about a landlord-first approach that we're taking. Because of that, the campaign will focus on landlords, property managers, and owners, but we'll also have a facet of outreach to renters. Okay, so a few things that will differ from the program that we ran last year. This will be a landlord-first application process. Right now, we have several hundred applicants from our 2020 program that would have qualified. However, their landlords never provided an approval or agreement to participate in the program. That sets an unrealistic expectation for those renters, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. If the landlord does not choose to participate, the Treasury has provided some remedies or options for us to pursue to still assist that renter, and so we will look into those on a case-to-case basis as those renters reach out to us. English, Spanish, and Vietnamese applications will be available online. The landlord and the applicant or the tenant will be able to create a login to check their status as the program moves forward. That's going to help tremendously just with information sharing. One of the biggest, constraints that we experienced last year was the lack of having enough people to answer the phones and answer the questions. So this will give them an opportunity to get that information firsthand. If we cannot provide that information, if they do not log on to get that information, they will be able to call our call center. Call center staff will have access, read-only access to our system to be able to provide those updates to them. We are ramping up now a dedicated team of project employees who will be solely focused on this program so that resources should not be an issue. And the system does collect a robust set of data that we need not only for reporting to the U.S. Treasury, but that will help us understand who we're serving and who else we need to reach out to. And so I mentioned the screening portal. Here's a quick process overview. The image on the screen is it's in the testing site right now. Everyone in Tarrant County, regardless of whether they reside in the city of Fort Worth or Arlington or anywhere else in Tarrant County, will be routed to this tool as a first step. What this does is take 4 or 5 questions and that information, whether it's income, household size, and address, and routes them to the right application within the right jurisdiction. So this will prevent duplication or help prevent duplication and also streamline the process for applicants so they'll be routed directly to the application that they need instead of being thrown around back and forth between agencies. Well, there it is. All right. And here's a quick overview. I'll be very brief, but these are the steps of the process generally. The landlord will be directed to the emergency rental assistance application site. The landlord will begin the application. They are able to apply for multiple tenants at one time, which will help tremendously. The applications are then routed to the individual tenants to complete and submit. An email is sent to them to do that. The tenant will complete the application, attach all of the documents. The applications will be assigned within the software to specific team members for review. The payment amount and eligibility will be calculated based on the federal guidelines provided by the Treasury. We'll be working with the auditor's office for the last steps of the process and have been communicating with them quite frequently. The file is sent to the auditor's office for review and final approval. They appear on the claims addendum, and then a check is released. And that's all I've got. Do you have any questions for me today? Will you just remind me of what the general income requirements were for this program? Yes, they're 80% AMI, and I don't have that chart, I apologize, today with me, but I can resend that. And I will, one note that the income on a case-by-case basis can be determined by the 2020 annual income if they've already filed their 2020 taxes. If they have not, we can use the 60 days income prior to the application date. Very good. Thank you. All right.
Any other questions for Kristen?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Members of the court, we can now move to item number 2. We'll be very quick on this. Ask Mr. Amador to come forward and just give us a very brief overview of the damages that the county experienced during the last the winter storm.
Good morning, Jan, members of the court.
Morning.
So I know everybody received the spreadsheet. I'm not going to go over the spreadsheet. It's a lot of items. I do want to touch on a couple of the items on that. At the correction center, we had the dual fuel boiler that go out. And,
Mike, why don't you if you wouldn't mind taking the mask off, then I'll...
Absolutely, yeah. The dual fuel boiler went down, and we have two types of boilers in the correction center. Our standard that operate on natural gas, and then this dual fuel that operates on natural gas and diesel. The purpose for it is if Atmos were to start curtailing on the gas, we would switch over to the diesel. It went down. It's aged. It's original to the building. So you're going to see probably in our FY22 budget request to replace that unit. We're doing right now, have a vendor checking on it to see how much damage was done to determine if it's repairable. Okay, so I'm a little concerned about that one. I'm concerned about the Plaza building. We lost 5 air handler coils. The only reason I'm concerned is that's a brand new system. It was just installed in May of 2019. So you typically don't want to start having to make patches repairs to coils when they're brand new, but there's no way around it in this case. So it's a little upsetting, you know, that our brand new system, we had 5 coils develop a leak. So they're there today actually beginning repairs on that system, but I just wanted to call that one out to you. The other one I want to kind of address to you is the resource connection. Building 2200, that's where the pool is. Those boilers, the heat exchangers, developed leaks on them. Those systems were installed 8/24/2019. Again, brand new boilers, 2 of them. It's a little upsetting that you're a new piece of equipment. You typically hope you're not going to have to start doing any kind of boiler work for about 10 years. But with the rupture of the heat exchangers, we're going to have to get them replaced.
Is any of that under warranty?
No, Your Honor, it's not under warranty because it's a natural cause that created it, so it's not going to be covered in any kind of warranty. Approximately $26,000 to make the repair. Replacement units are $46,000 to give you an idea of the value of those heat exchangers. So we'll probably be moving forward with that repair and getting those units back up and running. But again, just the fact that it's such a brand new system is rather disturbing. Okay, so I wanted to share those with you, and then I just want to go over a bullet point quick list of everything that happened during that 6-day period from Sunday to Monday. We had 3 makeup water break lines, and those are the lines that feed the cooling towers with water. when they need to have more water, those lines open up, and we had 3 of them break. We had 5 frozen cooling towers due to basin heaters failing. Okay, and it was a power surge that caused those heaters to fail. And as soon as we caught it, we fired them back up. The water started melting again. The ice did, and so the cooling towers became usable again. We had 26 sprinkler breaks in various buildings, and a lot of these were in suburban buildings where we lost heat. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot. We'll be lucky sometimes to have 1, 2 a year, to give you an idea. We had 58 domestic water line breaks. That's incredibly high. We'll be lucky to have maybe 3 of those a year, okay? Again, it's where we lost heat, we lost electricity, and so all the lines were exposed to the frigid temperatures. A lot of breaks. A lot of those repairs have done, but we still have some ongoing. We had 2 fire panels go down due to water leaks, and that's because there were so many devices that were saturated with water. Devices can be strobes, the ambient noises that you hear whenever a fire alarm goes off. And so it put the fire panels into emergency situation where they're being hit with so many signals that there's so many devices going offline that the fire panel itself gets a little confused and goes into a lockdown. We had to literally go device by device, find which ones are offline. We had 2 hose bibs. Hose bibs you have them at your house. We had covers on them. They were both in the area coming right over to Trinity here. Just froze them right up, even with the covers. We had the Encore vault at the 1895 courthouse. The drain, there's so much water that comes out naturally into that area that there's so much water that it froze, and it expanded the pipe, popped it. So that repair has been made, and Encore worked with us on that one. We had a return air damper break. It locked up literally from the frigid air at Plaza Building, and that's helped to contribute to the 5 coils, because that frigid air can no longer be controlled. It came into the air handlers, and it just affected those coils in a negative way. We had generator power. 6 of our buildings were on generator power pretty continuously. Okay, we had a hydraulic line break at the Northwest Sub-Courthouse, Commissioner, and the elevator. It has this, it's a rubber boot that connects the metal lines, okay, and it froze and expanded and popped, and we lost all the oil. So we had to have our elevator contractor come out, cleaned everything up. We had a First Restoration do an environmental cleanup, and then they had to refill all that oil, and we're probably going to be charged for that because it was an act of God, considered an act of God, natural causes, so that's not going to be covered under our contract. We had 24 buildings at one time. Yes, sir.
Excuse me. I don't think we've got all the hydraulic oil out of the building yet. It's down in the walls. It got down in the carpet on the first floor. All of the carpet, I believe, is going to have to be replaced down in the constables area. And I'm told that there's all kind of oil soaked into the walls, the sheetrock. So I think we've got a big job ahead of us. I don't think we're done over Northwest Sub Courthouse.
That's correct, Commissioner. The restoration company that we hired will be coming in, and we'll be having to literally peel back, tear out anywhere that the drywall appears to have been affected, carpet, etc. We'll have to do remediation first to remove any of the oil contaminants, and then they'll come back and do all the repairs. So it's ongoing. You're correct.
I may have misunderstood you. I thought you said you had cleaned it up.
Well, in the pit, in the elevator pit itself, that was all cleaned up because that does connect to a drain. So we have to be very careful to make sure we're not in any way contaminating any of the groundwater. So that was done first immediately to make sure we remediated that. And then the elevator company came, they made the repair, and then they filled up the tanks again, did all the checks, inspections, make sure everything was no longer leaking to put the elevators back in service. Now all that other exterior work you just talked about, all those walls, etc., all that has to get done, and all that will be ongoing probably for a while, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We had, at one point, we had up to 24 buildings without power during this outage, and that's unheard of for us. Okay, we also had 2 buildings that lost water. The juvenile center was one of them, as you're aware, and of course the reproduction center over on Sylvania lost water as well.
On the juvenile building, it was my understanding that we had generators, but they weren't hooked up to the power units?
We have 2 generators at juvenile, Judge, and they were on. They worked. They came on as they should. But what would happen is that we discovered a lot of the systems are not on those generators. We don't have ample generator capacity.
How did that happen?
Judge, I can't tell you. I can only tell you that at some point, looking back at documentation, it seems that some load was shed off of those generators. I don't know why that was shed, but I did a full takeoff and discovered that many of the detention area was not on generator power. The area in the front, the administrative section, is not on generator power. The 2 boilers that serve the kitchen were not on generator power. So I've already engaged an engineering firm to provide me with a feasibility study to let me know how much we need to put all of those areas I just described to you on a generator itself to control all of that.
How much of those areas are still going to be being used after we get the new facility up and going?
All of them. Believe it or not, the older pods, which is A, B, C, and D, have backup power in 2 of them, A and D, I believe it is, and then the day room has backup power. B and C do not have backup power. And those are the ones that we are scheduled to potentially demolish at some point.
Okay, so you'll be coming back, or somebody will be coming back and telling us. I guess the other thing I would ask based upon that is, do we have other buildings that we're under the assumption are tied to generators, or that parts of those buildings are tied to generators and they're not?
We have some buildings, Your Honor, that the capacity was set up in such a way that the building would be protected as long as we can get the fuel, okay? But it's not enough to run 100% of the operations. It would be a
I can
reduced
understand
operation.
that would be the case in certain buildings, but it should never be the case where we have folks staying in the facility.
Confinement.
Correct. In confinement, all of our jails have 100% coverage.
Except that this one didn't.
Except for the juvenile detention center. That's correct.
And we're sure that every other one does.
Yes. We had generator studies done already for those buildings, and we determined and found out what loads are on those, and they are all covered fairly well. The correction center loses some of the lights, et cetera, in the public and in the common corridors, but as far as where the inmates are, all the security systems, all the food operations to get elevators up and down, we're covered. The Lon Evans is covered 100%, has 2 N+2 redundancy, which means the need plus 2 additional generators. And if things start happening, they would shed the load of the unnecessary. They keep all the life safety things going. Correction centers all got all the life safety stuff covered. 350 has the life safety all covered, et cetera. Cold Springs Jail does have minimal stuff on it. It has all the life safety systems tied into them. Okay, and Green Bay has all the systems tied into it. We have 3 generators at Green Bay.
Post haste, get juvenile generators out there, get all their systems on those generators.
That is correct, Your Honor. I hope to get that feasibility study quickly, and then I hope to go ahead and fund the design, get the design going this year, so that we can.
No, not this year, this month.
We heard what you're asking for,
Yes.
Judge. We'll make that.
Absolutely, Your Honor. In other words, as soon as I get the feasibility study and know the value, I'll discuss it with the budget director, and then I'll immediately fund getting the design done now.
Yeah, let's get that.
We understand.
Yes, absolutely.
So just generally, I'm concerned about, with kind of anything that's outstanding, what does that mean in terms of workplace conditions for our employees and then also for business disruption? So are there any of these things that are on this list that we should be concerned about those 2 things in addition to what you already shared?
No, Commissioner, we got everything up and running. The biggest areas that are lagging is the sprinkler system repairs. All of those have been capped, and so we have fire watches going on in those facilities as required. And we're talking to purchasing because our current vendor is so swamped under with work, we're going to have to bring a secondary vendor in, and purchasing has been very helpful. And thank you to Melissa and her team during this time. They really worked with us because getting vendors was very difficult, extremely difficult. But they've worked with us, and the items that are left will not affect the operations of the buildings in any way.
So in a minute, Melissa, I'm going to ask you that when we do these vendors, especially for these things that are critical in case of an emergency, do we not ask them to give us prioritization? And if so, and they're not doing that now, is that a problem?
Well, normally it's not a problem, but because of the storm, so much was going on in the county with the power outage that we were just scrambling.
Well, I understand that, but that's the whole reason we do this in anticipation of this, and we,
right,
you know, we're paying for that. So if now all of a sudden somebody, you know, we have a big disaster and they're not available because we had a big disaster, then why did we worry about contracting for the big disaster?
Well, our contract vendor showed up. I think there was only one contract vendor that was not available, and that was for the sprinkler system. And I talked to Mike during that week. I talked to him just about every day during the week of ice storm. And I just asked him to contact another vendor just because I think we only have 2 vendors on that contract. As far as the cleanup goes, with the pipes bursting, those are contracts we have in place under a co-op, but we don't have a standing order with them, just like we do with the sprinkler system. We have a standing contract with a rate to be on call, and we do pay them up front for services.
Okay, again, and we can talk about this offline, but under an emergency management type situation, you know, we have a plan, and the plan says in case emergency, this is what we're going to do, and we get all that set up. And if we're contracting with vendors to react when we have this, and you know, so that we can appear to be prepared.
Yes.
If we get to that point and they decide they're not going to be able to show up, or they're going to put us in line behind everybody else, Dave McCurdy, is that you hiding behind that column over there? Yes, sir. I thought it was. You stuck your head out. You should have stuck your head out. If you just continued to sit back, you'd been all right. I just feel like that's part of what our whole planning for disaster is. And maybe you're not telling me that we're not getting the service that we expected to be getting when we set this thing up.
No, I'm sorry.
Judge, if I may.
I can take your mask off.
Our vendors responded to us. Remember, they're not dedicated to the county. There's nothing in our contracts that says you're dedicated to the county, but they reacted appropriately. They put us ahead of other folks. They canceled other things. We're competing against everybody else in the Tarrant County. Every other office, commercial building, university, TCU, et cetera. They use many of the same vendors we use. There's also other cities that use our contracts. Okay, so we're competing against all of that. But our vendors reacted appropriately, put us in high, and they were here with us. They spent the night with us. They did all the work they could do, but there was so much work, not only within our buildings, the county in general, that a lot of vendors were being taxed trying to get the work done. But they reacted very appropriately for us, Your Honor.
Okay.
That's all I have, GK.
Any other questions?
Any questions?
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Wait a minute.
Yes, Commissioner.
I didn't hear you mention the fact that our fuel island out at Precinct 4 failed to operate because of the electricity. We put a portable generator on the system so that we could hopefully pump the fuel out, and it would not work because there was a card system at Central Garage was down and no power. And without that system, we couldn't use our fuel. We finally, I believe, borrowed some from Precinct 1. I'm not real sure how Precinct 1 was getting theirs out, but anyway, we got some fuel there, but it affected tourist vehicles, our sanding crews, Saginaw, Blue Mound, fire and police vehicles, and various county vehicles that fuel at our location. And we tried a portable generator, but it just would not work. But there's a possibility that there is a way to eliminate this problem in the future, but it's going to cost around $35,000. And if Pat Howell has not talked to you about this in facilities, then I wish you'd give him a call. He's got the information about what he did and what he tried to do to get the fuel out. But it did become a problem because all of our service stations in the Northwest area were closed due to the weather. So it sort of left us in a pickle. If it hadn't been for Precinct 1, we would have really been in a pickle.
Commissioner, I'll reach out to Pat and I'll find out what he's doing, and then I'll also get an engineering firm involved to find out what load is included on that gen set at the maintenance center in Precinct 4, and we'll get it, any changes that we need to make it, we'll get them done expeditiously.
And Commissioner Johnson, Precinct 1 was pleased to be able to help.
Well, thank you very much, Roy.
That's all I have. Thank you. Thank you.
Your Honor, that's all we have on our section.
Okay, Ms. Tidwell.
We have two items this morning. The first is we're asking the court to release the $224,999,000 as collateral as outlined in your court communication.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion to second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And our next item is to ask the court to receive and file the auditor's report related to the registry of the court of accounts held by the county clerk as of September 30th, 2020, and the clerk's response is attached.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion to second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Facilities. Good morning.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Tracy.
Hello, good afternoon. We have
Okay,
one
good
item.
afternoon.
Yeah. One item for your consideration, approval to execute Benner Partners Professional Services proposal for architectural programming and conceptual design for the Tarrant County Criminal District Attorney's Office.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Glenn?
Move to receive and file the personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file the personnel agenda. Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have two additional items for the court this afternoon. The second item, we're asking for the court to approve a waiver of terminal benefits from the sheriff's office. We've outlined the details in your court communique. Just briefly, the sheriff is requesting a waiver of 125 vacation hours. We are looking at a net savings to the general fund of approximately $6,500.
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Our third item, we're asking the court to approve a double fill as well as a waiver for Precinct 1. Commissioner Brooks is requesting, again, those two items. We are looking at a net cost to the road and bridge fund of approximately $30,000.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And Judge, if I could take just 15 seconds, I'd like to bring your attention, the court's attention, to item 5. This is a consent item that you all approved. This was the approval of our Caremark CVS agreement. Some of you are aware that this has been a very difficult process to get this agreement before you and get it approved today. And I want to thank, from the Criminal District Attorney's Office, Ann Diamond and James Nichols. Without their assistance, we would not have gotten here. This has been a very long and arduous process, and they have done meticulous work to make sure that the provisions are appropriate for Tarrant County. Our rebates will follow, and I think the last estimate that I saw was about $3.3 million in rebates. And I think those will follow between 10 and 14 days after this document is fully executed.
Well, that'll be today.
Yes, sir. But again, I do want to thank Ms. Diamond and Mr. Nichols. They've done a fantastic job, as they do for all of the agreements.
And this is for 2020
This is for 2020.
and 2021.
Yes, the agreement is, but the rebates are for 2020.
And if I'm not mistaken, this is also the first, well, this is just the Caremark. The reinsurance was the other thing I was thinking about. So, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Purchasing. Moved up a little bit there, didn't you?
Good afternoon. We have 5 items for your consideration. The first item is the item that was held over from last week. It's an award recommendation for bid number 2021-023, Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center Security Improvements for Facilities Management. We've updated the court communique before I get into that. We've updated the court communique to include a letter from GSBS Architects. GSBS Architects was part of the scope review meeting January 20th, and they did go through the pricing thoroughly and was satisfied with the contract that we're moving forward with today.
Okay.
And also, the other question from last week was regarding alternate number 1, what that our alternate included. It included upgrades to 30 existing doors at the Justice Center, and that upgrade includes adding card readers and signage.
I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
The second item is an award recommendation regarding RFP number 2021-048 for professional investigative services for applicants of license as bondsmen in Tarrant County, Texas, for the Sheriff's Office, awarding to Bearden Investigative Agency per contract terms.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
The third item is the award recommendation regarding bid number 2021-053, annual contract for mattress materials for Sheriff's Office, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors listed in the court communique per unit price.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
The fourth item is an award recommendation regarding bid number 2021-056, our annual contract for tires and tubes for passenger vehicles, equipment, countywide, awarding to the primary, secondary, and alternate vendors listed in the court communique per unit price.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And the last item is an approval of exemption to the competitive bidding requirements for purchase of drug reagents, controls, equipment parts, and proficiency testing materials for public health.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes. Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Commissioner Fickus.
Yes, have an interlocal agreement with the City of Bedford. I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Do we have any appointments today?
Yes, I have one reappointment of, on the Historical Commission, Diane Dias. I would move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Court members, you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Your Honor,
Schaffner.
we have one additional briefing this morning, and that deals with the legislative update. Mr. Schaffner is here.
Thank you, Mr. Manius. Judge, Commissioners, a brief update on the 87th session. First off, the governor is making a statewide announcement at 1:30 this afternoon in Lubbock. I would highly encourage everyone to tune in regarding that particular announcement. In D.C., I want to start with D.C. real quick. The new federal bill, the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, has passed the House late on Friday evening or Sunday morning, and is over in the Senate. The tentative deadline to have that bill completed is March 14th. Due to the unemployment insurance benefit expiring on March 14th at midnight. So we expect that bill to move through the Senate very quickly in the next few weeks. From the legislative session, we're about 10 days out from the end of bill filing, which is March the 12th. So we're beginning to see the contours of the big issues that we're going to see this session. First and foremost is the electricity reliability. And what happened during the February winter storm event. There were extensive hearings both Thursday and Friday of last week in the House and the Senate. The Senate has an additional hearing this Thursday over the issue, and so we will continue to hear more and more and more about these particular issues and about its effects on consumers, not only those that had indexed plans, the 42,000 folks in Texas that have indexed plans, but also municipal and co-op users and who get their electricity from municipal utilities and co-ops that are also going to be feeling some significant budgetary squeezes on that. But outside of the ERCOT issue and the PUC issue and the electric reliability, a handful of items are really percolating. One is over during a disaster declaration what the emergency powers are of the governor, the judges, and mayors. So that's going to be an issue that we are going to have some significant conversations about with the legislature. HB 3 was filed last week in the House. It's a low-numbered bill, which means it's a speaker priority bill. And so to date, there have been 62 bills that have been filed that deal with Chapter 418 of the Government Code, where the emergency powers area is. So just to let everyone know that's going to be a big issue. Broadband access. This is going to be another significant issue. Representative Ashby has filed HB 5, which is a really, really interesting bill that allows for a mechanism and an entire office to allow for broadband accessibility statewide, and using some federal funds to come down as well as existing state programs to really, really expand broadband access within the state. Not only the rural communities, it also has some urban components as well.
Russell, what was that bill number again?
HB 5. And then on bail reform, we've had our first bail reform bill has been submitted, a significant one, SB 21 by Huffman. Again, that's a low number in the Senate, so it's a Lieutenant Governor priority bill. So we will see some bail reform activities and discussions ongoing as we go through. Chapter 313 renewal. This is the Chapter 313 of the Economic Development Act. allowing for certain tax breaks, but that'll be another discussion point that we're going to be having, similar to the 312 discussion we had last session. And then we can't forget about redistricting. Not that we don't have those, that's not enough of a discussion, but something very, very significant has happened with redistricting. The Census Bureau came out and said that they cannot deliver to the state the census tract level data as necessary to do redistricting until after September 30th of this year.
Yeah.
So that will, so I will be gone for at least a month in the fall, just to put everyone on notice to Austin. Because so what the plan will look like for that, we do not yet know. That puts a number of states in very difficult straits with their primary processes. I haven't heard a full analysis of what that means for Texas yet, but I will keep the court apprised as that does develop out. And then telehealth is also another big issue. HB 4 by Representative Ford Price. Really, again, another big issue that we're going to deal with this session is how to expand telehealth and the necessary aspects of that into our communities as we go forward. And then the final issue, and I apologize for not getting this information to the court sooner, but about a month ago, HHS in DC approved the 1115 waiver for Texas. That's still, of course, it's a huge process and huge waiver issue. And so we'll be getting back to everyone more information as that goes forward. But those are kind of the general contours of what we're seeing. Any questions or comments for me this morning?
Just on the telehealth issue.
Yes, sir.
I've had significant discussions with Robert Early at JPS over the past several months about telehealth. It needs to be treated in the same way that a personal appearance for health related concerns is treated in terms of reimbursement. When a person presents for treatment in person, the institution gets to charge a facilities fee. In telemedicine, even though all of the facilities of that hospital are involved in caring for that patient, the hospital is not allowed to charge a facilities fee. We need parity for telehealth in that regard.
Excellent point. Thank you, Commissioner.
Anything else?
Not for us. I do have something for GK though.
Bye.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Russell. Be safe.
GK, I just wanted to ask that we have an update on where we are with the bond in a couple of weeks. Have an agenda item, a briefing item about where we are with the bond, with the JPS bond.
Is Mr. Skinner still here? I believe that he's going to be in
JPS.
I'm sorry?
The JPS bond, not the transportation bond.
Okay. I do not have an update for you right now. We can make sure we bring one to court in the next week or two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? Then we'll recess our open meeting, proceed to close to discuss items exempt under section 551, 0.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code, local government. Having returned from our closed session, there being no business to perform at this time, we are adjourned.